Advisory Board to order. We'll start with a moment of silence, followed by the invocation by Mr. Charlie White. Let's have a moment of silence, please.
Let's pray. Lord, we do thank you for every blessing of life. Lord, we thank you for the agriculture in our county. We thank you for the agriculture in our state and the United States of America, Lord. Just watch over us. Help us, Lord, to do what we need to do to help the farmers and the beings of Oconee County. Just watch over us, lead, guide, and direct us. We look to you for all things. In the name of Jesus, I pray.
Amen. Stand for the pledge, Mr.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's take a quick look at the minutes. There weren't many since it was a short meeting and an introductory meeting last time.
I had one amendment for discussion on A. It was the food council had a breakfast, an ag ed breakfast linking students to SAEs, rather than the career, or what is that, Tri-County? Hamilton Career Center. So it wasn't a Hamilton Career Center, it was a food council.
The food council.
Mm-hmm.
It was held at Tri-County Tech.
And it ended up getting changed, the venue got changed because of weather. We had to push it back a week. So the amendment would just be Oconee Food Council to host a breakfast linking ag ed students with supervised ag experiences.
Would you like to put that into a motion? You did?
Motion to amend.
To amend the minutes.
In a second.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Did we vote on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. And Kim's motion to accept as amended, all those in favor? Aye. Whichever's correct. We'd like to welcome Mr. McMahon. Mr. David McMahon is a resident of Oconee, long-time resident, and we're glad to have you on the board, sir.
Thank you. I want to apologize too. Our first visit, my daughter had a MRI scheduled that very same day, and it collided with this meeting, so I apologize.
That's no problem. We have to take care of our families first, and that's no problem at all. So we are good with the minutes? All right. I thought a good place might be to start with reviewing of the farm with the 2020 comprehensive plan to see what is due to be reviewed. It looks like the first item up there is 8111, advocate best management practices. To that end, I guess what we can do is just support best management practices. Educating the public, talking it up. What can y'all see that can be done on that regard?
You said the magic thing, educating the public where our food comes from and how much agriculture is produced in this county. And everything from, cattle to row crops to poultry houses. It's a big money. It's a lot of income to this county. I was actually talking to a guy today, and he was asking, where my corn was going. and I educated him where we sell our corn. Most of it's Rose Acres over in Georgia. And, that's a meal for eggs. And they buy a lot of corn. And there's a lot of money coming into this county, you know, from that, so. People don't really know, you know, and I think education's a good thing for the county. Whether
I would love to see us write some articles and talk it up at whatever meeting you might go to with your groups.
economic impact, that's what I was trying to say.
On that end, that would be that could relate to the signage on our end as far as educating the public goes.
You read my mind. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but that's part of the issue with signage. I think that's a very big impact.
Those were the numbers that you wanted on there, the economic impact that Shirley was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that meeting is next month with Gil Shirley, so those numbers need, the only issue is the most current numbers we have from the farm census is 2022.
Mm-hmm. And they don't come out every 5 years, and we get them 2 years after that, so that's kind of a sticking point. And then the question last time was, how do we update the signs when, if the numbers change? So, a question on that regard, we talked to Mr. Shirley, James did, and he's agreed to help us in some form or fashion with the signs. I read that they extended the deadline. Do we need to apply for the HAT tax or the A tax, whatever it is, that the PRT issues with the groups that apply for help? Do we need to apply for that, or were we already
I think
talking
we're
to?
in for the one or two, and then we'll have the discussion about further in that with getting a little momentum behind it first.
Okay.
Can I get a little clarification on who we're meeting with?
Mr. Phil Shirley is the director for Parks and Recreation and Tourism.
And collaborating with them on signage?
Great, and he will come here to our next meeting?
Yes.
Great. Well, I brought that up because the deadline is Friday, so if we needed to submit something, we can. I've written up that form, but it's pretty rudimentary, and I didn't really want to submit it till it was a little more polished, so. But I'd like to see us write some articles. Chris does a great job with the extension, writing the updates with what's going on in the extension areas and with the county, and I'd like for all of us to write a few letters to the paper or whatever to tell about agriculture and the impact in Oconee. Because people don't know. People just take us for granted, so try to do that. I'm guilty of that. I've thought of them and written things, but I've not submitted. So what are y'all's thoughts on that, y'all? Who's a good writer?
Volunteers.
And you don't have to speak up now, you could just, I guess, just as an individual, write an article about the importance of agriculture.
Something that might tie to that is the strategy 8118 with the Agricultural Disclosure Act and kind of the right to farm bills. If it, sort of educating the public via newspaper or article, if it could be something about educating them on something that is related to Oconee with folks who move in here, knowing that there is something in place and what it means, what that means for people who live in Oconee next to farms.
So the real estate people said that they added that to their disclosure, but we've never gotten a straight answer to see that. Farm Bureau was working on that, and they told us they would get that to us, but did we ever, has anybody ever actually seen that disclosure?
No.
because it did come up at the State House, and we did have a letter sent to our delegation about it. And then we were told that it was handled in committee and dropped. But if we don't have that, I think that is, I agree with Tessa, that is something we need to find out about. Because that was what put everybody on notice, along with the Right to Farm Act, that was in the disclosure that, hey, you're moving in next to this farm and you may not like their lights that come on at 4 o'clock in the morning, but, you know, you've got this to deal with. Is there any way we can find out where that is, or who do we need to contact about that?
We can talk to Farm Bureau again about it. The last understanding I have is that it was attempted to be added to the disclosures for nuisances on the property.
Right.
And that there was a pretty big, dust up about that and whether or not agriculture could be considered nuisance activity. And, you know, when you talk about like chicken houses and smells that come off of it, is that a nuisance to you, but it's not a nuisance to me, and how people.
No, it smells like money.
That's right, that's the,
I mean,
it's just like paper mill, yeah,
smells like money.
that's right.
Cutting down trees smells like money.
So that's where it all kind of ended up dying, was defining a nuisance and whether or not it was a nuisance to everyone, and then if there were negative repercussions to property that was classified as a nuisance property versus, not, and that's where everything kind of came to a head.
I do think that is one that probably, it said 2023 and it's up for review again. I think that's one we just don't need to let die. We do need to find out about it. And I know last year we asked, and it was about this time, and we were told that we would get a copy, but I've never seen the copy.
I think we've done it every year about this time.
Yeah, we asked for it and we never did it. Maybe we need to.
That,
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add something. Charlie mentioned education. That's gonna be hitting the nail on the head right there in Oconee, because, you know, I'm gonna bring up that dirty word zoning. I think we have to use the tools and what we got in the toolbox, because I keep up with county council going-ons too and their business, and the number one discussion here lately across this county is development. People are coming all across the country to come to South Carolina and retire, and there's development coming on. I talked with Tim Donald very extensively here a couple of months ago, and we have agricultural zoning, of course, in the county. And he told me that there's a lot of folks in the Fairplay area that just don't want to be zoned, that are farmers. Well, a lot of people don't understand that every piece of land in Oconee County is zoned. It's called control-free, ag, lake residential. Every stitch of land in Oconee County is zoned something already.
Yeah.
And if we could protect agricultural by using the tool in the toolbox of agricultural designation of zoning, or there's also zoning called ag residential, which are getting close to these community developments that, let's say for instance, you've got a small farm and you've got it zoned as ag residential, and then a development comes in all around you. Actually, the Right to Farm Act will even be stronger in those areas that are designated residential, because if you'll read into the Right to Farm Act, the Right to Farm Act kind of collides sometimes with zoning regulations. So a Right to Farm Act might collide with the lake residential zoning, but it wouldn't collide or conflict with the ag residential zoning or a pure agricultural zoning. So I've always been a guy that didn't like somebody telling me what to do on my property, but we've been hit with this problem of development. People are coming, and if we're going to protect farmland, I think we have to use the word educate people about these zoning techniques that could protect the farmer in an agricultural community, and the Right to Farm Act would be a building block to protect them because they're already zoned. Just like the Right to Farm Act may not work if a guy in the city limits wants 50 chickens, but it's zoned, you can't have poultry, like, I think Walhalla's this way already, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that. The Right to Farm Act may not apply to him because the zoning, to begin with, didn't comply with the chickens. But if you had a piece of land that was zoned agriculture, the Right to Farm Act has a lot more legs to stand on. Am I correct, James, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And I did pull this up just if anybody is interested in how the zoning breakdown goes throughout the county. Agricultural district, number one, that's less than 2% of the entire county is actually zoned as agricultural. That agricultural residential, even less, that's 0.1% of the county. So that is a very, very small percentage of these big tracts that are actually in a zoning district that preserves what they want to do. And you look at that control-free at 65%.
Yeah.
Take out Sumter National Forest, that jumps up over 80.
And the problem with control-free is, if a development wanted to come into an agricultural community that was control-free, and James, you, again, correct me if I'm wrong, are we still citizen-initiated zoning at this point?
Yes.
So if a development come into a community that was control-free and you had 51% of several parcels of land wanting to be zoned residential development, it could happen, but if 51% wanted it, of a parcel, of a contingency of parcels.
So that'd be by district zoning. The small area is that 50 acres, so that's what we're typically seeing now is the small area rezonings.
Well, if we could, as we're talking about, educate people, and protect agricultural, interest in the county, I don't see how we can't use this. The zoning thing, I don't like the government telling me what to do on my property, I get it. But I'm zoned agricultural residential right now, and it's actually helped me because of some developments around my property. They can't tell me what to do on my property when it comes to agricultural activities.
Yeah.
I'm protected.
Is there a size associated with that, acreage?
When I did my zoning, I had 51% of my neighbors around me, at least 51% of my neighbors and the property had to be contiguous. Joined, and it had to be a lump of properties. At 51% of that area, petitioned for that, and then you went through the process, going through the planning commission and getting approval from the council, and it 3 readings and it passed. That's what I did with my community. I had no choice because there was people wanting to come in and swallow my land up as lake residential. And I wasn't having that. And we got a bunch of our community neighborhood together, and we ended up had to go with a compromise of ag residential, which it has some restrictions on, like, hog farms and stuff, but I can still have my horses and cows and right now. And, I'm worried about our county getting overdeveloped because that's what everybody's mind is right now, overdevelopment.
It is.
This is, I think, a tool that needs to be educated about, that if you really want to protect agricultural land, I think we got a protection right here. James, I mean, am I kind of leading the right direction here?
It's certainly one of the tools in the toolbox, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think too, if you look at that Right to Farm Act, that was, I believe that came in 2012, 2010. And we all met at Columbia, with the Farm Bureau. Because we were having trouble then. That was when housing developments was starting talking and this and that and other. And the county made laws on farmers. I even got a letter in the mail. I got fields everywhere, but they said I couldn't plow after 10 o'clock, couldn't be shining lights on people's houses, couldn't had to do all this stuff. And we need to really look at the Right to Farm Act because, and make sure it don't get messed with, because from what we were told, the state the state of South Carolina Farm Act, Right to Farm Act, oversees county rules. It overpowers it. They can't go against what the Right to Farm did.
Well, like a municipality can, if because I dealt with this, Right to Farm Act saved my tail several years ago, and I really, studied it.
Do you remember what year we passed that? You was on the board then, I believe.
It was,
Originally, it was 1980, and then it's been updated several times since then.
yeah, it's been updated several times. But, if you've already got an established, residential community, say 500 houses in a big development, the Right to Farm Act don't have stiff a leg if somebody right in the middle of it decided he wanted to grow hogs. It says that in the Right to Farm Act. I've read it from one end to the other. I've forgot some of the things, but that's one of the things that stuck out to me. If a piece of property is pro-agriculture already, for instance, zone agriculture, then that Right to Farm Act has got teeth. You know what I mean?
I know exactly.
But in the city of Walhalla, if you wanted 10 cows in a 10-acre lot, Right to Farm Act may not be able to help you because it doesn't coordinate with the rest of the community, the municipality. If that makes sense, what I'm saying. Right to Farm Act is great, but the land has to be coordinated with agricultural activity. I hope I'm not confusing nobody, but
No.
It has to be ahead of the development, right?
yes,
That's what you're saying.
yes.
Kim, what did you have?
Well, I had a question about the zoning with the county. Several years ago, we had talked about, actually, it would be under 8.1.1.4, where we're talking about development productivity. We're talking about development standards for a while. Where did that go? I mean, we went to, I think Rex went, Josh Owens went, I went to planning. They had development standards in front of them. Where we at?
So they did pass the amendments to the control-free district, which put in density standards,
Okay,
which was probably the most significant zoning change, certainly since zoning came in.
okay,
There are still several items that were from that list of development standards. Early last year, there was a big public push for changes in development standards.
right,
That list has, commercial junkyards is one of the other things that was on that list that was addressed by the planning commission. I think there are still several things that will continue to come up in the future from that original list.
okay, so I guess my question is, we were talking about developers. So if I choose to develop a piece of property, I buy it from Tesla, do I have the right, I don't live here, I don't have any connections, I'm the developer, I'm coming in, and I'm gonna buy this property. Do I get the right to rezone it, go before whatever and rezone it, and then I can do whatever? Or is it like whenever you have, annexation and you have to live on the property? Or can developers just rezone?
So if you own the property, if you are the owner of that parcel, you can petition for rezoning. You do not have, it does not have to be your primary residence.
So developers, builders, whoever can re-petition for the
Sure.
property to be rezoned, and that's what David's talking about.
I think there's some of that, yeah.
Is some of that. Is there a way, I
Unless
guess,
it's in a trust.
That's
Yeah.
the only way,
Yeah.
a trust.
if it's in a trust,
If it's in a trust, it's stopped.
it stops?
It's from now till Lord comes back.
So, that's ruling from the grave, haven't we heard that one before, quit ruling from the grave? So my question is, do you think the appetite is because it says that the Agriculture Advisory Board will be the driver for all of this, is the appetite there to go back to planning, to ask them to implement more development standards to slow down, because we do need to educate with zoning, I'm not disagreeing with David McMahon all on that one. We do, we need to educate the public. But the other tool that could go in the toolbox would be the development standards. Do you think, do we have a full planning commission now? And B, do we have the appetite to look at these development standards, to put them in place so that it will protect the citizens and residents of Oconee County?
So we do have a full planning commission, everyone's been appointed, every chair is seated. I don't know that I could answer whether or not there's an appetite for continuing development standards. That's why I kind of said I think that there is some appetite to continue looking at some of those things that came up from that original list. I couldn't give you a timetable for it, or whether or not, which bits and pieces from that list would be tackled first or last, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it does all come down to education and people being able to do what they want to do with their property.
I can tell you from personal experience that zoning has a very bad connotation for
Right.
people when they call and ask questions about it. Before they've even heard an answer, there's already tension in that conversation.
It's negative.
Yes.
That's why I was asking, because our neighboring counties have been able to slow down density, handle some, I mean, sometimes I think they haven't slowed down density, but they have been able to control things a little better than we have with some land due to development standards and impact fees. And I guess that's my question. Are we anywhere close on any of that?
I have not heard anything about revisiting a conversation about impact fees on new development. It is certainly something that sets us apart from all of our neighbors, is not having impact fees. The sewer system does have impact fees, they are significant. I think that does play a role for people that are tied to the sewer system. But, I mean, that would take an act of council to initiate it. Not just, like, the planning commission can make a recommendation, we certainly couldn't even enter into that without council support.
Right. And I know there's only certain things that they can be used for, but I do know, in a neighboring county, it did slow down some development. They got one high school built and was gonna have to build another one within 2 years, or add on, because it was growing so fast in that area. But the county council came in with impact fees and it seemed to hit. So, it's, and of course, they were taking ag land. That was my point. They were taking,
I mean, ag land is what developers are looking for. It is flat, it is graded,
it was
I
cow
think-
pasture, so.
I think something that would help the most, like we was talking about educating, these realtors are uneducated on what the rule is. I've had call me wanting to buy my land, and there's some land come up in the front yard of my chicken houses, and the realtor called me and wanted to know if I wanted to buy it. Well, we're still working on that, but I was telling him, from 1,000 feet in the middle of my chicken houses up, there can't be a house built on that, any property around. And he argued with me. And he said, no, you can't build no chicken houses within 1,000 feet of my house. And I said, well, it was that way, and it's still that way, but it's also for the chicken growers too. You go middle of that farm and go 1,000 feet, and you can't build any houses around it. Now the Farm Bureau got that passed, but they don't realize that. So I educated him, I believe, and then also the same thing with the power line. Power lines come across, they're 75 feet. You can't build, and they're selling this property for outrageous prices, and the only thing you can do is have cows on it or have some kind, if they permit it.
Yeah.
They've got to permit you to farm under that power line, because it's actually bought, you know. They buy it. But the realtors are coming in and, you know, and selling this property, and all of these right-of-ways are already took up,
Well,
and they're not telling people.
well, James, what Kim and Charlie's both talking about, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you have a farming community that is zoned agriculture, ag community, 2,000 acres in that community of farms and homes. And what Kim was talking about, I'm a developer, and 100 acres out of that 2,000 comes up for sale in that farming community that's zoned. Am I not gonna have a tough time because I'm zoned agriculture, to get that development started in there? Especially if you got a planning commission and a county council that's pro-agriculture to begin with, that wouldn't go along with the Board of Zoning Appeals or anything. Am I correct?
So you can't get a Board of Zoning Appeals application for a change of use, so for higher density or anything like that. So if it's, those are set. Like, in an agricultural district, you would be limited to one dwelling per acre. So you're essentially saying, instead of being able to do quarter acre lots,
Yes.
you'd have to do 1 acre lots. So that 100 acres, maximum density, they have about 100 homes. And they lose some because they're gonna have to build roads, they're gonna have to do other things, they're gonna have to have stormwater ponds, they're gonna have to do all that other infrastructure to access it. So they're gonna lose 2 or 3 or 4 of those. And when you look at the bottom line for a lot of those developers, which is what they're gonna look at, the difference between 380 homes versus 100 homes is a really big difference. So whether or not that project works based on that density can be made or lost on that density.
That's why I think, like, just going back to education, if we can educate folks to save their farmland using the tools in the toolbox that the county has already given us. Like I said, I'll say it again, when I first started digging into this, I thought zoning was communism and everything. But I'll tell you from my personal experience, I'm ag residential, and it has, my land is protected to do my agricultural activities, even though I've got subdivisions all around me now. So again, I believe we've got something that can help us. If, you know, we're worried about development in this county. If we can just get all our farmers and all our folks who want to protect farming on board with trying to get their land zoned agriculture, I think that's, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I don't see how you can stop somebody from selling their land if it's not zoned. If it's zoned control-free, that developer's gonna come in that control-free zoning, because it's allowed there. And we can raise Cain and jump up and down and holler about it all we want, but the tool is there if they can go ahead and change it from control-free to agriculture. The tool is there.
One house per acre?
So the agricultural district is 1 unit, 1 house per acre. So that's a minimum lot size that would be an acre.
Yeah,
In the ag residential, which Mr. McMahon's in, it's a half acre. And control-free, it's up to 4. It's gonna be different in every one of the zoning districts.
Yeah.
So,
see, it's gonna discourage developer if he can only put 1 house per acre. And am I correct? There may not be even a development category in agricultural zoning.
I'd have to look at the use matrix, but I think there is residential development allowed in agricultural. It's just the larger lot sizes, so they
Yeah.
are, it is not prohibited, but it is a little bit harder just based on the density standard that exists in that district.
But a developer's gonna look at the bottom line, how much money he's spending, and he's not gonna make any money off selling 1 acre per house. He's wanting to sell 2 houses or 3 houses per acre. That's how he's gonna make his money, and he's gonna look elsewhere.
Tessa.
So since this has been very much at the top of all of our minds with zoning, we bring it to our community meetings. We bring information about it and encourage people to do it. Should we go ahead, for the interest of time and looking at budget requests for this comp plan, should we create a budget line item request for educational materials and some kind of budget towards I don't know if it's a newspaper campaign or a pamphlet campaign, because so far, educating the public has been purely word of mouth, just person to person from the ag board. But can we do some kind of budgeting for actual educational materials? What do you think?
I think we have done budgeting before, James. They did some PSAs on, several years ago, on, zoning, when it was first talked about. I think whenever you, there was right after that, it was started to get some of that. I
In
think,
2016?
yes, I think, and then I wasn't here, I don't, you have to ask Rex if they did more after that. Those signs, those economic impact signs was another part of economic, I mean, they ended up printing them for them free, I think, in 17, but then after 16, 17, and then I wasn't there, so 18, 19, 20, I don't know if those continued or not.
We had several pamphlets and brochures printed that were very colorful and nice, and we'd submit requests to the council for some printing budget and things like that. So yes, we can do that.
We need to rebrand the term zoning.
We did advocate a good bit last year for citizens initiated. We brought that up at every chance we got, and we just need to keep doing that. And it takes 50 acres contiguous, right, to,
For small area rezoning, 50 contiguous acres.
That did change, because it was originally 200.
Yeah.
And, the planning commission then took it back to council and they dropped it to the 50, which made it easier for people.
I remember when it happened. So if you get a group of neighbors, you compile 50 acres contiguous, and you go submit an application to rezone it ag residential or
I mean,
agricultural?
that's up to the individual property owners. They might like agriculture, straight agriculture, they might like the ag residential. We have a conservation district that is the most restrictive, and that is not a conservation easement, it's a conservation district, which is different. So a conservation easement, you're not gonna lift. A conservation district is just a more restrictive district, so it can be rezoned in the future, it's not ruling from the grave. That conservation district is 1 unit per 10 acres. And I did look it up just in the matrix really quick, and it is, so subdivisions of up to 10 units are what's allowed.
Up to 10 units, yeah, that's good. But not 100 units.
Correct.
See, that is another protection for farmland right there, already on the books. And like Tessa said, education, educate people about what James just said. I think we can protect farmland if we just use the tools in the toolbox.
Have we distributed where did those get distributed? Can we send them to the farm center, encourage other organizations that have an interest in this, a vested interest? Have we gone to farmers, any of the farmers markets with this information?
We distribute them mostly at events that we attended,
Okay.
but we can print some more.
What I did was, I went and knocked on my neighbor's doors. I went one door to the next, one door to the next. Said, this here's what's going on. This is a great thing, and people are like, heck yeah, let's get on board with this. Is what I've done in my community. And I had one or two that just slammed the door in my face, but that goes along with anything. But back then, I'm not sure now, I hadn't kept up with it, but you had to have 51% of the people within your area that you were trying to get zoned in order for it to go before the planning commission to be looked at or applied for. Is that still correct?
No, with the small area rezoning on 50 acres, it's 100%.
Okay.
So, and with 50 acres, if you're talking about agricultural uses, generally you're talking about parcels that are a little bit bigger. That could be 10 parcels, that could be 20 parcels, but not typically it's gonna be 50, right?
Yeah.
They do need to be contiguous, but, we've seen several rezonings in the last couple of years, so.
Back then, when I did it, it was like Kim was talking about, like 200 acres
Yep.
instead of 50.
there's still, and we've talked about this one, James, there's still no way to stop when you have a lot of road frontage. And that's what's happened to 3 farms in our area. Developers come in and buy them, and they just chop them up because they're not having to pay for infrastructure. And they'll do 3 acres here, 5 acres here, 7 acres here. Oh, you get the ravine, so you get 10. But then they put the houses right up against the road, and they just row them down through there. And I don't know that ag zoning would have helped that, because it's 1 house per acre. So you're zoned agriculture, well, they can still do what they wanna do. And those are the developers that I don't think we can stop. It's an issue. Now, their runoff and everything's a whole nother problem with DHEC, and that's a whole nother ball of wax to fight. But that's what they're doing. That's their new way around being zoned ag, or even traditional rural. They just chop up the pasture going down the road.
Well, another thing too, Kim,
Density might help that a little bit, but other than that, I don't know. I'm sorry, Charlie.
we sit here and talk about the right to farm and all this, but the bottom line, I've been in this all my life. Been farming all my life. When I can buy land, I buy it. I try. But now, I mean, I've been growing wheat and soybeans all my life too. Chris will tell you, we getting the same thing that I got 25 years ago for corn, wheat, soybeans, the whole 9 yards. The only way we can make it, you have to plant more to make it balance out. The problem is, I got 2 sons and a daughter. They'd like to farm too. They're not able to go out here and buy land like I have in the past. Who can give $20,000, $30,000 an acre? That's what it's going for. That's what they're trying to get. On prices of commodities that you got 20 years ago, it's not gonna balance out. You can't do it. You can't go to the bank and get it on what you're making. Poultry houses has helped me buy a lot of land, I'll be honest with you. But everybody don't have poultry houses, and they can't buy land, and then these developers come in, and they'll pay $20,000 an acre and shoot houses all over it. And we're hoodooing our generations to come. Our young farmers is not gonna be able to make it. They're gonna be hungry people one of these days. They bringing all these people in here and no way to feed them. There ain't gonna be no farmers, y'all, I'm telling you flat up. It's already happening in the state of South Carolina. And if we don't do something now to get it stopped, or maybe, what I'd like to see, the government rules how much I make. They set the price on corn, wheat, soybeans, the whole 9 yard cotton. Set the price on land. If they're not gonna set the price on land, help us buy land to feed the people. I mean, that's what we're gonna have to do. We're in a mess here. This county is at a teetering point. It's going downhill. We're losing it every day. I've lost 4 farms so far just this year, since January 1st.
People selling out or something, you talking
Been
about?
farming, they're dying out and their kids are selling
Yep.
for way up. I can't afford it.
No,
Wished I could, but I can't. I mean, you gotta live too, you know?
yeah.
Who can pay $500,000 for 20 acres of land? You can't, it's crazy what people are, Kim's like the same boat, she's shared with me, you know, some land up there next to her. It's unreal what it's going for.
Well, you mentioned the line item in the budget, and that's one of my goals overall, is to get a line item in the budget for agriculture. However we want to direct it is to be seen, but, in the meantime, we can request some educational material money to print some, whatever we want to print, to distribute when and wherever we're ready, when there's an event, when we've been doing it, but you're saying maybe mailing and distributing by hand and,
Well, events, yeah, farmers markets, going to places where we're gonna see a concentration of people that this is gonna relate to, who could zone their land,
Like if there was a way
and
to
who have an interest in protecting farmland.
if there was a way you had some of that material to where it could be displayed,
At the libraries,
and at the farmer's
at the farm
market,
center.
and the farm centers market, and that type of thing, those would be the people that may be interested in rezoning. They're coming to the farm center for an event, or they're coming to sell produce, and they would see it, and they may pick it up and try to inquire more about it. Just getting the word out there that it's available, I think sometimes we forget that we have that type of stuff. And I think Tessa's got a good point with trying to put a budget together to get that taken care of. Chris helps us a lot with his stuff, with the extension, but, he's got programs and stuff, and we're talking about zoning, so.
I really like the one that we did, that was, it was very nice, and it may be pretty costly to do, but the one that, it was front and back, and it said what agriculture means to Oconee, and had all the dollar figures, and had little blocks of the different components of it, peaches, apples, fruit, berries, nuts, goats, whatever. But, we could do one in reference to land use, and to show something similar to what James showed us, the farm, agricultural, residential, in the categories, because people don't know. So let's come up with a brochure or pamphlet or whatever to do that, to say what you're saying.
I would volunteer myself to be part of a subcommittee for that, for educational materials about zoning.
And it's part of the strategy for 2021, support South Carolina's right to farm laws. It's 8.1.2.6. And it could go right underneath that, and adopt a county right to farm policy. It could go right along with that for our comp plan.
I like that idea, county right to farm policy.
Well, it's on our list under the comp plan, so I think that all of this talk, along with that one tool in our toolbox, but then developing this may get more buy-in from the public, and then they would go ahead and zone, but then they would have a county right to farm act policy as well that would protect them. I mean, there's more ways to protect your local citizens, residents, farmers, et cetera, than just one. Because some, like David said, they shut the door in your face. They're not going to sign because it's got, and like James said, it starts off with a bad taste. So if it starts off with a bad taste and it's a county right to farm policy, and I'm with Tessa, I'll be happy to work on the other stuff. I'll be happy to work on the subcommittee. I don't know, maybe David would want help since he's read the Right to Farm Act and he's familiar with it.
He's
He
been
quoted
through
to
it.
us. It might be the easiest to go from there and to not reinvent the wheel, but to take what we have and add to it to protect the county.
Are we
David?
talking about we're talking about
Two different things.
educational materials
And-
about zoning,
Mhm.
reframing it for
Yes.
people so they understand what it means.
Yes.
And then a separate project working to push for a right to farm policy on a county level.
On a county level, yes. And I think Rex wants, if I understood correctly, he wants the economic impact in with some of your materials to educate people
Yeah.
on farm. Am I correct?
Yeah,
or
whatever,
did
I
misread?
was using that one because that's the one we did before. I like it, but this would be focused towards the,
Rebranding zoning.
Zoning.
right. So,
We're not
yes.
gonna call it zoning.
No.
Another prime example of what we're talking about is I attend county council meetings right regular. And I have seen standing room only in this room before of people opposing development. But 95% of the people in here that would be opposing development continuing in this county or overdevelopment was people who themselves only own maybe a quarter of an acre. I don't think I've ever seen a person in here that maybe had 50, 100 acres in here saying, I don't want overdevelopment either. again, education, these folks that wanna continue farming, they need to be in here, you know, in the crowd, other than just the folks with 1/4 of an acre, you know, to education,
Sure.
get the word out.
And yours, you could use David as a sort of a case study without you naming names or anything, but, you know, he's been through the steps, and so y'all could work together and come up with something.
I mentioned a while ago, you know, the land trust with the Farm Bureau is a good avenue also. I'm putting every bit of mine in it. And, it's not the county, Richard was sharing with me that the county is gonna put money with it also, in the state, like 10%.
I
20%.
think that the county is a partner in some of those conservation easements through the conservation bank. They are a smaller partner.
And see, people don't know about that. You know, we're talking about education. They think, I don't know nothing about it, but we need got to get the word out too about the trust, land trust.
That, the Conservation Bank will come up in a minute, but we can wait for that, or, but the county gives as they come across it. They don't have a continuous pipeline of money into the Conservation Bank, do they?
So that is 100% funded through donations. The
Right.
largest donation is through Duke when they have done their licensing and relicensing for their power facilities. There's no taxpayer dollars.
Right.
So those are limited funds in that, they're donation based.
Right. I would like to see something a little more regular to contribute to the bank so that we can set aside, buy some land and set it aside or whatever.
That's right.
But, would y'all like to put that into a motion, or do we need a motion to make the subcommittee, or?
I'll make a motion to form a subcommittee to work on educational materials for zoning education.
Second. All those in favor? Any discussion on that?
Can't save us on
Re-education of, land use practices? or
preservation
something, Land
practice.
preservation
That's a dirty word.
practices.
So,
Okay, what's your wording?
I make a motion to form a subcommittee to create educational materials on land preservation tactics.
That's good.
Land usage of preservation, yeah, that's,
Land usage,
I'm trying to read, and I can't come up with.
Pertaining to farmland?
That's it.
The
slowing
preservation and
development.
promotion, the preservation and promotion of ag land in Oconee County. Would that-
The preservation and promotion of ag land in Oconee County. Did you get that, Nate?
Preservation and
promotion
Promotion
of
of
agricultural.
ag land in Oconee
We'll use preservation instead of.
zoning, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Now, second,
Second.
and all in favor? Okay,
Unanimous.
good, all right. Subcommittee, you, Kim, David?
Sure.
Okay, David wants to do that. And then there was the other part of it,
The budget
yeah,
for the educational materials,
You had to ask county to fund
The spring-
materials.
asking them for printing materials or printing services or whatever it is. We might know a little more what to ask for after you come up with whatever you're drafting. But
what do we need a motion for that?
You can direct me to make a request for additional funds in our operational budget to support more printing or more, you can do something, give it.
As a motion, or?
Yeah, you need to make a motion to direct me to request that in our budget.
we have it, good, yes, do that, and then, what number might be appropriate, because we haven't asked for any money in a long time. Printing was the last thing we asked for, and that's been forever, so think of an appropriate amount to ask for.
Do I need to include that in the motion right now?
Can we do it open-ended on the amount? within reason. Make a motion for you to request an additional budget for printing materials, development and printing of materials to support the preservation and promotion of agricultural land in the county.
Yes.
All right, y'all get that? Don't make me repeat.
Yeah, sounds good.
Poor Nate.
Yeah.
You got it, buddy?
It's a good time. Okay, so there's a motion to direct Mr. Coley to, ask council for some printing money, for some funds for printing educational materials.
Printing and development of educational materials for the promotion and preservation.
Poor Nate, he's gotta write all this down.
I second that motion.
All right. Nate,
You got it.
so any more discussion about it? That's a good plan. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. All right. Move on through the comp plan.
So, I don't know that we're down there yet. 8.1.1.10. I think we asked for this in 2023. I don't know when budgets are due, but I think we need to ask again. You want me to read you what it says on the comp plan? For this record? Create a staff position of agricultural communication and coordination to coordinate and communicate with farmers, foresters, local governments, agricultural groups, and the public on agricultural and forestry matters. I would like for us to propose this person, because if we're going to educate people, have a county right to farm policy, we need somebody that can be a county staff member to help with that, to facilitate that, not just us coming in part-time trying to do that. In 2022-23, we requested this person. At the same time, and it would be the same person, it's not like there's two different people or three different people we're asking for, it's all the same person. Mark Fisher with Soil and Water does an awesome job with what he does, but I don't know how he does all that he does, because he has to do all the site visits for all these land trusts that you're talking about, along with other duties that are required of him with Soil and Water. He also does an education piece, which we talked about educating the public, the schools, and going into schools about agriculture and clean water and, fencing cows out of the pasture, out of the springs and streams, and why you do that. We were shot down with this person, but I think we need to revisit it, because it's on our comp plan again, number one, and number two, because it's needed in our county. It's needed at Soil and Water and FSA. It's needed for us to help promote. And I think I don't know, probably the person wouldn't want to take the job, they might want to shoot me. But I think we need this person, because I think it's an important position. If it's done correctly, I think this person, I think I got told that I wanted somebody to take the temperature in the room of the ag community. That was not it. It was to do exactly what we're talking about. Educate the public on land conservation. Educate the public on our rebranding of preservation and promotion of ag land. Educate the public on our farmers market and local food sources, because that's another one that's on our comp plan that we need to coordinate. And thank God we do have the Food Council with them about local source foods, and COVID kind of made us do that one quickly. But those are important issues, and I think, I would like to make the motion that we continue to work on that directive, strategy 8.1.10, to create a staff position of agriculture, the liaison for the county. I would like to see it go back on the budget request I think it would help county council. I think if you had the right person in place, they could field some of those calls that are gonna come in about zoning. They could field some of those calls about, oh, my neighbor just sold his farm and da-da-da-da-da. Those type of things, you know, how do I protect my land? They could help alleviate Elise and James. They could help Mark. I'm not saying they're just one person. I think, you know, one position. I think they need a broad spectrum of what they need to do. That's just my opinion, but I think the position's needed.
You don't like a full-time position with the county you talking about?
That's what it says, is that position would be created in 23. It was on the comp plan from 2020. It was recommended in the agricultural task force from 2022-23. We requested it and was shot down, which is fine. I understand they got other things, but I think it's time to bring it back.
It's a good idea, in my opinion.
And I know soil and water needs somebody. And I'm not trying to overstep my bounds and just throw somebody in there. I'm saying it's on our comp plan. If the county didn't feel they needed them full-time here with James or whatever for just the ag-related stuff, then they could be part-time there. And I think it's a good idea to put them in that office. One, they have to put it with Chris. No, I'm just kidding. Good. But they would learn. They would learn the layout of our county. They would learn what lands are in trust. They would learn where the farms are. I mean, there's a lot that goes on at Soil and Water. There's a lot that goes on at FSA. They're in that office with Extension. They would understand what was going on across the county with farming.
Great.
And honestly, we don't have a full-time person there in our Farm Service Center. Charlie, am I right? Mendel told me that y'all had to go to Anderson.
We do.
And that's something we pay for, and that USDA, that person needs to be back in, I mean, we need somebody. So if that's somebody the county's funding that's gonna help coordinate that, that's fine, but we need somebody in that office. Because I'm sure Chris gets tired of answering where they're at, because they're not there. They'll be here Thursday, maybe, if you're lucky. And you show up Thursday and they're not, okay, you gotta go to Anderson. It's just a disservice to our farmers. And it's a federal position, and I get it, but they do need to show up.
I agree. And I don't want to distract from that, but one thought I had, and I've mentioned it a lot, is the Oconee Economic Alliance. It's a county private group, and I've asked how to get a person in there to help develop the agricultural industry. So that's a place that we need a person too, but I agree with you, so I'm going to put it in a motion. We'll see what we
I
can.
make a motion that we fulfill the comp plan 81110 for an agricultural liaison, and if you want to put in there that you want them to also be part of economic, it says, I mean, it actually says, local government agricultural groups, so it has it in there that that person would be fielded in that position. I guess they could attend and represent us. It's the right person if that's what you want. I mean, it states that.
I wouldn't want to make it the same person. I think that'd be stretching the person pretty thin. But,
I think we're only getting one, so
I
we
think,
might need to
yeah.
ask them to do everything.
I think we'd just better, well, yeah, we'll have to come up with a job description. We'll have to come up with, justification, all kind of hoops that you have to jump through to satisfy HR, so,
Agricultural Communication Coordinator.
there you go.
I mean, it states it in there what we want them to do.
I mean, that's
And
the
it
title, right?
pretty
That's-
much
that's
lays
it.
it out, and it does say local government, so,
To me, that would be part of the job, is to work with the Economic
yeah.
Council or Alliance or whatever. That'd be part of that job to do that. That'd be part of the outreach
Right,
of it.
if Jamie needs stats and figures from cattle, they can walk across the hall if they're there, or they can call, they can get with Chris, they can help get that coordinated. They can help. I don't think it's, I don't think we're asking too much. I mean, if you get there and you find out it's a lot, okay, then I'll apologize. But I think that if we find the right person and they want to do the job, I think they'll do the job.
So we have a motion to create a staff position of agricultural communication,
To request it in the budget,
to request it in the budget.
per the comp plan 81.1.10.
Second.
Second.
So the motion is to direct James, the staff, to request it to go into the budget.
From
And
the
a second.
agricultural board.
And a second, okay. Let's see what secretary has. Read that back.
Okay, so motion to fulfill the comp plan 81110 for you to request it in the budget, correct? Or,
Staff.
Yes, that's
For
correct.
staff to request it in
Staff
the
to-
budget.
okay.
Wish Mr. Fingers could work his face.
And, okay, good recording. And Charlie seconded it. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Hopefully we can help write the
did it
job
make
description, the
sense?
guidelines,
Yes.
maybe. So, motion and a second to request staff to ask for an agricultural liaison, communicator. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good, okay. That's an important one. Thank you, Kim. All right. We're gonna work on the Disclosure Act and find out where that is.
If you wanna work on the county right to farm policy,
Right to farm policy, yep.
For the Disclosure Act and the Right to Farm policy, who is gonna be one person designated to look into that? How are we looking into that further?
Will they go by the state? What's already in place?
I think it's an idea to support the state Right to Farm Act, the federal, I think it's augment, or write something where the county recognizes it. Is that your idea?
well, the comp plan states that we will support the South Carolina Right to Farm Act laws, and that we will consider adopting a county Right to Farm Act policy. And it didn't say it, but the idea behind it, I believe, was to further protect the farming and the industry, farming industry, ag industry in the county.
That's 8126.
Yes.
And the accountable agencies are the Chamber of Commerce, Clemson, or the County Cooperative Extension, and the county.
Yeah, and we're supposed to drive it, so however you wanna do it. I think it could go hand in hand when Tessa brought up the real estate licensing, because both of those are going to be pieces that are gonna kinda go together, but not really. And you really kinda need to know what's on that Disclosure Act before you start with the county policy.
So we don't have an official
We don't.
letter
Mm-mm.
that gets,
We keep being told that it's in with that, but I have yet to see it. I think I've asked for it till they're probably tired of hearing me out.
You talking about like a letterhead just for this advice?
something that someone looking to purchase property gets.
So, you have a real estate disclosure, has all this stuff, initial here, initial up front and back. There's supposed to be a disclosure in there that says,
Someone is
There has
farming
been
next
language
to.
introduced in the past to include a disclosure that it is either adjacent to or within a certain footprint of, whatever agricultural operation.
Okay.
And that is, we were talking about a little bit earlier, and it came to kind of a head, because they were trying to put it in with nuisances, and whether or not agricultural use is a nuisance, and that's where it has always stalled.
Can it just be separate?
and that's where I jokingly said,
That's one for
poultry
Columbia,
house doesn't smell like a poultry house, it smells
Not
like
like
money.
money, yeah.
Sometimes.
We can't And we can't possibly have one that's just on a county
So
level.
those are statewide disclosure forms, and those are based on national disclosure forms.
Yeah.
There's the South Carolina version of that, which we wouldn't have a disclosure.
So there is but other states do have that. I think North Carolina now has a disclosure form.
They have, I'd have to double check. I know that they had also talked about it, and that was specifically after the
Smithfield.
Smithfield incident.
And I think South Dakota or North Dakota also.
So what can we do
Should-
actually as the,
Should we just do our own research and come back with that? Is
We've
the
got
comp
some
plan gonna
examples
be-
of that, of disclosure letters.
is this just something that we bring to the county council and present as?
Even more so to the delegation office, really, than the county council.
Do we
County
have
council
anybody
also-
at delegation? Do we have a Carol again or no?
There's a part-time person that has been there for a while now that is doing their best to fill, I mean, those are,
A full-time
yeah.
position, I got
Those
you.
are part-time staff.
Bless her heart, or his heart, whoever it is, I don't even know.
So bringing the concern about ag disclosure verbiage,
I mean, we can also reach out to Farm Bureau again. I know that they've tried to lead that effort in the past, and whether or not that's still on
Would it
their
be
radar.
helpful to reach out to there was a guy here that said he was president of the South Carolina Realtors. And he was from our county, he was here at a meeting, and he told me that he would get that. I think I heard it from him. But then he never did, I tried calling him a couple of times. I know who to ask who that is, I can follow up on that one if you want.
Should it be two motions, or you mentioned they kind of work together?
It's whatever you want, sir.
Whichever's easy to work on.
well, it would start with which one is the one that needs priority.
I think the disclosure needs priority because we have people moving in. That would be my opinion. That's my opinion. Ask everybody else their opinion.
We'll prioritize one over the other so we don't get
Do
caught
y'all
up.
prioritize the disclosure first or the county ordinance first?
I agree with the disclosure, since development is rampant. Followed closely by the right to farm policy, we're just supporting the state and federal, and then we just add on some wording saying Oconee supports it.
If I understand that correctly, every realtor would have to sign off on that?
It's like a termite letter or lead-based paint letter. You disclosing that there's farming going on here with activities that you need to understand are happening, and you accept that. That's what the disclosure letter does. We've got some examples from other states somewhere in here, so.
Yeah, that sure sounds like a good idea.
So we'll entertain a motion, whether it be one motion or two. But just you prioritize, we prioritize the ag disclosure letter, so
We can always make a motion at another.
we
Yeah,
can do
we
that
can.
one first, yeah.
I'll make a motion to, pursue the ag disclosure letter.
Ag disclosure statement in the real estate contracts. I think it's a statement, not necessarily a letter. It would be a checkoff,
Okay,
right?
I'll make a motion for the ag board to pursue the concern of having a ag disclosure, some ag disclosure wording in real estate contracts.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and a second to, what she said. Glad you recording that, so.
He's good.
Motion and a second about the ag disclosure statement in real estate transactions. Anybody, any discussion, any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. All right, good, Tessa, thank you. Kim, very good. As far as 2025, there are three over there that deal with forestry, coordinating plan infrastructure development to protect forest land, preserve forest land, work with Forestry Commission to educate wildfire hazards. Those are pretty broad. What do y'all think?
So, Mr. Chairman, if you look back, I think with forestry, I think if we look at it, we can see that our fire department and our voluntary fire department do a great job with their community firewise. I think South Carolina Forestry Commission, there is also, it's already in place for us, which is the Forestry Act, and they have to have a mitigation plan and all that, and I think everything they have has a lot more teeth than what we have as a Right to Farm Act. We could probably learn a lesson from them, but, I think we have the State Forestry Commission members in our county, and I would say touch base with them, but I think they've kinda got their act together. That's just my opinion. But-
Just
and-
bringing it up because it says 2025
Right,
over there. so.
and we're supposed to, but and actually they have come talk to us before. But in my opinion, I think touching base with them, keeping the lines of communication open is great. And if they need us, to tell us what they need, but I think they do a great job, personally. And the Firewise, I commend, those guys. I know Kiwi Keys has kind of been a leader in that. And then they've gotten the others involved, but I think they do a really good job. with the
Okay.
Underbrush.
So,
You know, along those lines, this 8318, I know our church was a Red Cross go-to in case of disaster, whatever, to get food, like it says, you know, in emergency preparedness program to include food and stuff like that. But, you know, like we're talking, more people has moved in. I mean, we established this thing back in the 70s, you know, 78, 79, somewhere along in there. And how many people has moved in since then? I think this might need to be looked at to see the population. And if those can still accommodate, you know, in case of disaster, like we've been having.
Have you moved on down to D? Is that where you were at with the 8.3 in the food desert? Is that what you were?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is kind of surprising when you look at that now.
If what we could do back in the, you know, back then, we'd probably need a bigger building and whatever, if they could look at it and see whoever does it.
This says that
Emergency
it's based
prepared-
on 2015.
It's old.
It's very old.
It's probably worse than it is on this map.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. This data that we're using for the 2020 comp plan was 5 years old at the time, which means now it's 10 years old. So maybe, do you have new data that we could look at?
We're actively working on a 5-year update, which is gonna be basically an appendix to this document. That
Right.
will update a lot of those numbers and goals and getting all of this.
We just
More
need
relevant.
more work.
I
Sorry.
think the Food Council has more updated data. We published a, Oconee County food assessment
Right, that was last year.
that we got it fully edited and published, in this past, around August. And we have a whole section on food security, and I do believe we have more updated information. So I can send that.
Thank you, probably appreciate
I know,
it.
we need to give you a copy of it.
Would be good, but that probably will answer your question. Did you hear what she said?
yeah, it's food policy folks. You've got updated data.
Right,
Yes.
yes.
And that was, a 2-year project, compiling that, it's an 80-page document that was cut down from 140 pages.
Right.
So that is very extensively researched, and I'm sure we use some information from the county, but we also have more up-to-date information.
I think it would give a clearer picture, because we're looking at 10-year-old data right now with this.
Like I say, it'd be good to get it out for information, which churches or whatever are designated in case of tornado, emergency, where you can get food and whatever.
Right.
As most, and have that available for people. Because I know all of them's, ours is out of date,
Were some of these folks at your meeting that
The
listed?
Food Council is working on an emergency response food distribution plan,
Okay.
and that would also be looking at, areas, organizations who are willing to be part of that emergency response, be on that mapping, and, be available for when something like Helene happens, or a tornado, or what have you. So that is something that's an ongoing project that we're working on.
Good, good. All right, thank you, Charlie, for bringing that up, and Tessa.
And that takes care of 83.1.1.
There is a lot in
In
here
that,
that the Food Council is actively addressing, working on.
Can I make a suggestion?
Y'all probably addressed a good bit of 8.1, right?
Which one?
The 8.3s, I mean, all the previous page, food systems, all that,
The 8.3.1.
fresh food, and gardening and all that.
Yeah, there's several of these that I could highlight.
I'm sure y'all talked about that.
Can I make a motion or suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we, since the comp plan is so long, and I know you have other things you wanted to discuss, could it be possible to make a motion to bring back the comp plan? Like, we've pretty much covered 8.1, but then to do some research with forestry for 8.2, and then to allow Tessa and her group time to do, and bring to us the 8.3 with the food security, and have those discussions at a later date for the agenda?
Yes, ma'am, certainly can.
I mean, I'm good with sitting here discussing, but
No,
if we want more detail
Yeah,
to where it's,
we've come to the end of the document, and I think we can get more detail at a later date, yeah.
I think the priority was getting budget items, because that's,
requests,
yeah, that would be
because
time
budget's gonna
sensitive.
come up first.
Right, and the person and the printing are important, so.
Right.
Restate that motion, please,
Oh, this motion?
if you want, yeah, to,
Well,
it's a
it's up to
table,
you.
it's a tabling motion,
I
basically.
don't think you need to, I think.
There's
you
no
can get
action.
discussion
Well, there's no
with it.
action, you just,
Just-
it's your discretion, you're the chairman, of when you wanna put 8.2 and 8.3 in the comp plan back on the agenda.
Let's put those on the next meeting agenda, if you would, Mr. James, and, we've touched on them lightly, we can go into greater detail when she brings her research back. So,
I'll do that.
yeah, thank you. Good, I think we've pretty much covered the rest of them previous to that. I think we're good on those. Anybody left out, or if we miss anything on that, on 2020? We might want to move on to the farm center, if we're done with that. So the farm center, I've been talking to some of them, they meet on the same time we do, and they expressed, interest in moving their meeting to another time so some of them could participate in this meeting. So, maybe they'll do that. But anyway, we're talking, and they've given me their vision, and you have the the goals that they're looking to do, in which there are no surprises there. We know, and follow along those closely, I think, and I look forward to us working with them. They probably could be the hub of agriculture in the county besides the extension office, and they could probably be the go-to hub of agricultural events. And I've asked them for some numbers so we can promote the Farm Center to the council and planning commission. How many events have y'all had this year? I know they've had a few, quite a few, and numbers are important, so we've asked them for those. So they're putting those together. They'll get with us and give us some more information. I know they have the Sporting Clays events coming up April the 5th. That's a popular draw. It brings in a lot of people. They have 2 rounds, morning and afternoon, and meals in between an auction, and it's a real fun event. And they just had I think they called it a Little Britches Rodeo, and had a lot of people attend that. So, the potential for the Farm Center is huge. In 2016, right before this board was formed, they did a study, and it's this thick. It's a thick study on the Farm Center and what it can do. And it refers to other places in the country that have such places, such events, such facilities. And so there's been a lot of study on the Farm Center and what it can bring to us. We just need to keep going with it, help promote that.
I think they're gonna have an archery sheet also talking about that.
And we talked about a repository for information and scheduling. They have a good website, and we can tell them and feed them what we know and what's going on, and they post their events, and so people go in there, look and see what's coming up. But Farm Center is a good place. We support it.
Thank you for bringing this.
It's one of our main focuses, I think, as the board, to support them, because they support a lot. And the Conservation Bank, any more on the Farm Center?
No, thank you, this is good information.
I'm just passing it along, I didn't write it, but they do have some good ideas, and they work tirelessly, and they've gotten all those buildings and structures and the events plan, and it's a lot of work. So they do a great job, and we're gonna support them wholeheartedly. Conservation Bank, we touched on it. I just think I'd like to see more funding go into it so that there's money there to help do conservation plans, easements, whatever, for citizens that want help in doing that. Seems like it takes several organizations to bring it up to the amount that a person wants for their property to match the market. It takes the Conservation Bank times 2 or 3 of them, or whatever. So it takes a good bit of money and effort to do Conservation Bank issues. So, have any further ideas on that, or I just saw they appointed a new member. I don't know who it is, but they appointed 1 or 2 new members. So I think they're fully seated, aren't they, James?
I'm not sure if they were fully seated or not. I know at the very end of the last council meeting, they were making some of those appointments for the last 2 commissions, and the crowd was a little out of hand. So I think they did stop at some point in those. I think there might still be 1 or 2 vacant seats, but I'm pretty sure they're real close to having a full.
They're getting there. They have a really good group, I think. So we'd like to support the Conservation Bank in their efforts too. Potential agribusiness. We've got a poultry manufacturer or equipment manufacturer related to poultry in the county up at the Career Center area. So that's great. The grain storage, we said Anderson's decided to revamp theirs, so that's kind of shifted the focus to them. Any other agribusiness that y'all know about that we might the pellet mills, I know they were looking for, people were talking about a wood product outlet, and pellet mills was just discussed. I don't have any more information on that, but, seems like a good way to repurpose wood products. So, if y'all don't have any other ideas on that, we'll go to the board member updates. And y'all have pretty much spoken your minds already, but if you have any last updates, go ahead.
It's not really an update, I just have one request. I thought I had emailed you that request, and that is to finish the 240 contracts for our ag FFA teachers. They had requested that. The holdup has not been us or the teachers. The holdup has been getting a sit-down with our administration. We were moving along, and then we got Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think they've had some interruptions and some things happen within the district, is this the district? And so we're kind of waiting, but I would like, and I'll be happy to do it, I would like to finish that. We told those teachers that we would as a board, and I would like to finish that project if it still suits the committee. And all that is to try to get the lead ag teachers for each of our 3 high schools, the 240 contract through Clemson Extension, or 210, 220, whatever they can negotiate out with the teachers and the school district to promote agricultural in our county. And they did come with the receipts, the one teacher that I've been working with, that shows she works way more than 240. And I think she's very deserving of it. And I was told that she could be in the meeting when we sit down and talk. And I would just like to finish that, and I would just like the board's blessing. That's all I'm asking.
Support that.
Absolutely. We want a motion to pursue the 240-day contract. I didn't understand your message, I'm sorry.
So when they were
But
here.
I got you now,
Yeah,
so.
when they were here, that's what they wanted, and we've been working on it. And we've just kind of hit a brick wall because we haven't had the face-to-face with the superintendent.
Forgive me, but I don't know what the 240 contract is.
The ag teachers have contracts for, regular teachers are about 190 days.
Yeah.
And an ag teacher has a lot of obligations in the summer, so they have to take them to camp, do career development and other things. And so they usually have a 240-day contract to take them through the summer.
Greenhouses.
Greenhouses and
Okay.
trips and events, and not all of them have that. And so they're, like Kim's pointing out, working extra on their own, no pay. So
Okay.
it's a good thing for an ag teacher to have a 240-day contract.
Okay, I understand now.
So, because they can continue in the summer, back in the old days, they do canning, and
Right.
stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
It just didn't get completed last year. And so,
Do we need a new motion if it's an ongoing?
I think you can just as a board agree, like, I think, Kim, you're asking more if anybody wants to step in and take over
Right,
that, or if
we-
you'd like to finish it. and
well,
you
I would like to
request
finish it, and that's what I'm requesting, is to finish it. Now, Tessa has been, one of the subcommittee members with me, and District 4 was our other subcommittee, so if someone else would like to join in, I'm good with that. But we just have not been able to have that sit down, and so, I didn't wanna push real hard without the board's blessing, but I will go back. And I've communicated with the teacher, and so they're very much aware, but I would like to go back and push that issue. They're getting ready for their budget too. And I personally think that the kid deserves it. I mean, I've looked at the schedule, and she's a go-getter, and I give her credit.
Oh, yeah, it's much needed, and, I think the board can support that. And I'll be glad to help you with it.
Okay.
I've been through it, so I know.
When we get a meeting set up, I will let everybody know. I know we can't have but 3 of us as a subcommittee, so however y'all wanna do it,
I'll
I'm good
defer,
with.
anybody else can,
I just would like to support and try to get that part of that, and that's another part of education. So,
very good. All
That's
right,
all.
I should have put it on the agenda.
No,
I didn't
it's
understand
good.
your message, but
That's okay.
I got it
I just
now.
wanted to bless him so we could finish it.
yes, we need to finish what we started, all right? So I think we've pretty much finished everything we needed to tonight, so it's,
One more thing I'd like to bring up, our sign in the county, that when we, get it ready to go or whatever, do y'all think it would be, we use this like on the soybean board, got the FFA kids to get together and come up with a sign, have like a contest or whatever, whoever comes up with the best signage, looking for Oconee County agriculture. I think it'd be good for the FFA kids to maybe do that, if it's so, whatever y'all think.
great,
Wanna be on the subcommittee?
great.
We'll let you chair the subcommittee and handle that.
I was just thinking it might be good to have it uniform with the PRT signs, the brown with the logo, and then maybe they'll be willing to give us more money for signs that way, but,
And we'll be meeting with him, he's coming
Next
next
month.
meeting, so we can talk further about it then.
but yeah, I like the idea, sure.
You can have different crops that's grown, chickens, cows, whatever, on that sign. Just let them kids come up with it.
Well, yeah, they,
come up with some pretty good
oh,
signs.
they're great. They might could come up with a visual instead of us putting 142 million annually, because that's gonna change. It's probably already changed since the 2017 census, so, yeah, I think that's a good idea. You can head up that committee. All right, seeing no other business, I think everybody's probably tired.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
end.
I second.
Second, all in favor?